chillin', serial killing, pre-cold villains on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star rated from the floor to the ceiling. If you catch a 1-star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ on the ones and twos, by the name Beelzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all over two, and prepare to hear the legend of the Straight Chillin' Crew.
What up, nerds, and welcome to another slashable episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode 484, recorded Monday, July 8th, 2024. Tonight we're talking about the latest from Ty West. The movie is MaXXXine. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got your boy, Randeezy. What's up, man?
I'm a star!
How you doing, buddy? You ready to talk about some explicit action?
Yes. Triple
Our boy Ty, he's back at it.
Yeah, man. It's it'll be interesting to get into this one. I've been really looking forward to rounding out this trilogy. I trust in Ty West, generally speaking.
Trust in Ty.
No
All right,
show.
great.
Last but not least, calling in from Seoul, South Korea, we got your boy Soju. What's up, man?
Oh, howdy, partners. The power of Christ compels you, Stains. What up?
A very religious stain I see tonight.
Bob, it's another dong stomping episode of Straight Chillin', isn't it?
It sure is.
I mean, every week. It always is. It's implied. It's the implication.
Yeah. Another
We always imply
dong-stomping
splattered
episode.
nutsacks. That's the implication we
I was
give
like,
off.
oh, damn. Ty West must have been listening to Straight Chillin' recently. I'm sure he was.
I got my dong stomped. It's
We're hunting
inspiration.
for dick.
Damn. That gives a new meaning to that.
Yeah.
To that, Bob.
Good night.
Woo.
Oh, boys. Before we get into the review, let's tackle just a little bit of housekeeping real quick here. So we do have our August poll currently posted on our Patreon website. If you guys support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this August. The theme for August is Del Toro. Our boy GDT has directed a whole bunch of movies that we just haven't gotten around to yet. So we wanted to pick 3 of them, throw them on a poll for you guys to vote on. And the 3 movies are The Devil's Backbone, Pan's Labyrinth, and Crimson Peak.
Whoa, Bob. How are those numbers looking?
Looking good. Pan's Labyrinth still sitting on top with 58% of the vote. Crimson Peak, second place, 23%. And The Devil's Backbone, third place with 19% of the vote.
It's interesting. It just popped in my mind. One of my favorite episodes is Beetlejuice from back in the day. And
Yeah.
at that same time, we had done a Tim Burton poll. And it had to be for the same month because that was like leading into spooky season as the warm weather was like dying out. So got a little trend here going on, Straight Chillin'.
Yeah.
Some
We are
directors
trendy.
directors we haven't covered before. So maybe Pan's Labyrinth will be a new favorite for old Soju.
Maybe. That movie is a banger. I mean, they all are. That's why we chose the 3 movies that are on there. But yeah, that'd be a really fun one to talk about for sure. So yeah, it's handily winning. You guys still have until the end of the month to get your votes in. Make sure you do. We'll see what we're talking about this August. In other Patreon news, we're dropping mini casts every other Friday. This past Friday, we just dropped one on stop motion, which is a Shudder original joint. Randeezy was talking that one up.
That's true, yeah. Talking about this new film. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? It's stop motion. It's a film about a stop motion animator who goes insane. So, you know, probably more true than not, if I'm being honest.
Right.
Like,
Dude, that type of work would drive me insane. So yeah,
It
I
is.
believe it.
yeah. That's a game of centimeters, millimeters.
That's
Tedious.
insane to me.
Yeah.
I can't believe
Tedious
it.
shit.
Yeah.
So check that out
But yeah.
over on Patreon. Next up, we're dropping a mini cast on Sting Friday the 19th. Keep your eyes peeled for that. Your boy Soju talking about Spideys on your face.
Spider
How about the
alien.
Scorpion Deathlock,
Yeah,
the Stinger
Yes.
Splash.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are these wrestling
was
things?
Yeah.
They are.
Things.
Yes, they are.
There's gonna be some hell to pay here!
Nice.
But not the mini cast. The mini cast is not wrestling things.
Unfortunately.
Too bad.
Yeah, that's really all we got going on for Patreon. Just the poll and the mini cast. You guys have anything you need to plug?
Not a damn thing. I think I'm a clean house. How about you, Juice?
I do have one thing I want to say, boys. Today, when we're recording, well, for me, is July 9th, which means happy spooky season. Here we go, 2024.
Oh my God!
Raise your glasses. Raise your pumpkin glasses.
It's all happening.
Here we go.
Raise your pumpkin
It was
chalices.
married to the beast.
I left it in the kitchen.
Bob, it's spooky
Dude.
season. How could you leave it in the kitchen?
I'm failing you, man. I'm sorry.
Where's the pumpkin chalice? But yeah, here we go, boys. Heading into the best time of the year.
That's right, Bob. Your house clean? Not clean?
Last thing I want to mention is we got a brand new episode of Let's Get Physical Media. At the time of you listening to this, it will have just dropped the day prior. Mikey and I talk about our June pickups. There's a whole bunch of new releases on there we talk about. So check out Let's Get Physical Media everywhere you get your podcasts. If you're into Blu-rays, 4Ks, DVDs, anything like that. Bunch of horror, but not exclusively horror. And,
Bob, I thought you would have bought all the Blu-rays by now. You're still going, huh?
You know, I've seen Rob's new Inner Sanctum.
Oh,
new
yeah.
Cave.
I have not, yeah. Randy, what do you
That
think?
motherfucker is straining already.
no, it's not.
Under the weight. the floorboards
Yeah.
are buckling.
Yeah, the concrete floor is just cracking right underneath all the weight of those blues.
Sinkhole just opens up.
Those?
I will say, not a joke. At least 2 new blues arrived while I was there.
It's true.
And Rob had plans to go pick up Criterions as soon as I left.
It is true.
So
This is all true.
Those bookshelves behind you are hefty looking. They look like, yeah, they look
damn near floor to ceiling.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They're IKEA,
Uh-huh.
you know.
Oh, yeah.
Spared
Oh,
no
yeah.
expense. IKEA.
Oh my God. Well, yeah, you got blues to buy. You got to skimp on the shelves.
No, it spared no expense, Randy. You got to protect the blues at all costs.
That's blue gold over
These
there.
are fireproof bookshelf.
Blue gold silicone tea.
Oh shit! That's
Oh,
it, man. My
man.
house is definitely clean.
All right.
All right. Clean houses all around.
This house is clean.
All right, boys, let's get into the main event. We're talking about Maxine, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Bob,
Oh, hey.
when are you going to pre-order this box?
Whenever I can. Can't do it now, but I'm telling you, tomorrow it'll be up there, I swear.
You made your own little custom box. What's on that box?
Oh, yeah, it's just, it's a little bloody knife.
That's
it looks,
illegal, right?
It looks real.
It's a felony. Yes. Wow.
Looks really
pretty good.
good. You know, I'm an artist.
Yeah.
I don't want to brag or anything.
Pretty. It's better than what I can do.
I
The
mean,
pornographic parody should go in there, of course, but you're going to have to DIY that as well, I suppose.
oh, too late, Randy.
Oh, God damn.
Oh my God. Maxine.
This is the dong stomping episode,
Get your hand off my penis!
which
Hey.
is Wednesday for Bob.
Yeah, put on the highest heels you got and get to stomping this dong. That's
Oh my lord! Make
What?
them
Stomping
mashed potatoes.
what I like.
Making some fresh ball sack wine.
Oh no!
God
This
damn.
one. All right, I regret this.
Yep, this is your fault. Maxine, this is a brand new release, rated R, with a runtime of 1 hour and 43 minutes. This is the 3rd installment in Ty West's trilogy. I don't know what to call it. The Maxine trilogy. I don't know. But this was written
X
in
trilogy.
X trilogy, sure. Written and directed by your boy Ty West. This stars a whole bunch of fantastic folks. You got Mia Goth, of course, in this. Chloe Farnworth, Simon Prast, Giancarlo Esposito, your boy Kevin Bacon, Halsey.
No, Bob. That's Ethan Hawke.
Oh, Ethan Hawke. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Moses Sumney is in this. Some other folks. Sophie Thatcher, who is, I think, on her way to be considered a scream queen, if I dare say so myself. Plot synopsis brought to you by IMDb is as follows. In 1980s Hollywood, adult film star and aspiring actress Maxine Minx finally gets her big break. But as a mysterious killer stalks the starlets of Hollywood, a trail of blood threatens to reveal her sinister past. Jill Manx.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
Hell yeah, you do. Would you recommend folks check out Maxine? Randy, kick us off.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would. I think that... I think for the most part, I've seen some dissent about, people ranking these movies and all that stuff. Setting that aside, if you like the first two movies, it's definitely worth your time to close the loop on this. And honestly, I think if you're into 80s shit, if you're into Ty West stuff in general, I don't see a whole lot of reasons that a big horror fan wouldn't want to check this out. And it's pretty great in theaters, or at least the one we went to. Damn near empty, except for the one snoring guy.
Yeah. Oh God.
To be fair, we caught the early showing. It was at 9:05 in the morning, but I guess somebody got up early and just fell asleep sawing logs. Man,
that's a lot of money to pay to saw logs.
Yeah.
I don't get it. But
Juice, what about you?
Yeah, I guess so. Just to complete the trilogy, I guess. Is this a horror? Oh, I think we're gonna discuss it in the thing. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was a little disappointed with this film in general, and it's like kind of where it falls in the catalog and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, I guess wrap it up. Do your thing. Bob, how about you? Would you recommend people check this out?
Yeah, I would. I had a really good time watching it in the theater. And I generally just enjoy Ty West, the way each of his movies sort of stand alone from one another. They're just stylistically very different, even in this trilogy and where all the movies are connected. I would call it a horror movie. IMDb lists it as a crime horror, which I think makes sense. It's definitely inspired by 80s slashers, but I would say even more so giallo movies, which very much are a whodunit type crime thriller horror movies.
Yeah.
So I think it very much is nailing that aesthetic. I mean, this is close enough, man. I think, you could nitpick it, but in my opinion, yeah, it's close enough. Randy, did you have something you wanted to add?
Oh yeah, I was gonna point out that the giallo call out is a good call. Like this, every time I've ever asked what is giallo, the main response I get is gloved mystery killer stalking beautiful women mostly, and that is exactly what this movie is. So I guess this movie is a giallo.
Yeah,
there's always room.
It's not uncommon to follow detectives in giallo movies while they're trying to figure out who done it, and there's an aspect of that in here too. Yeah. So anyway, that sounds like a general recommendation. Maybe not the strongest, but general recommendation across the board from you boys here at Straight Chilling. We are going to be spoiling Maxine, and here comes your warning.
Spoiler warning.
Hey, Bob. You have this plot synopsis?
You know I do, brother.
Sitting in that empty theater, you could just type this right on your phone, right in the theater, no problem.
Yeah, I didn't want to wake up the dude that was sleeping, though.
How considerate of you.
That's called consideration. That's how you act in public.
Yeah, I better hang that shit up, right? It's a lost cause. Oh.
Yes, it is.
I do have the plot synopsis, and here we go. So in 1985 Los Angeles, the Night Stalker is killing young women all over town. We see Maxine Minx has made a lucrative career as a porn star, but wants to break into mainstream film. She auditions for a horror movie called The Puritan 2 and lands the part. Her colleague, Amber, invites her to a party in the hills, but she declines to go. Maxine goes to work at her second job as a dancer at a peep show, and a leather glove-wearing patron watches her dance and becomes enraged. Another colleague, Tabby, invites her to a party in the hills, but again she declines. The mysterious figure leaves a VHS copy of the porn Maxine and her friends made 6 years prior on her doorstep. She gives the videotape to her friend Leon, who works at a video store, and asks him to try and find out where it came from. The following day, Maxine finds out her co-workers Amber and Tabby have been murdered and branded with pentagrams. Maxine is invited to meet with private detective John Labatt, who says her previous crimes will be revealed unless she meets with his employer at a specific address. 2 LAPD detectives question Maxine about her murdered friends, but she won't talk to them. Labatt continues following Maxine, and she punches him in the face with a fistful of keys. She begins learning the lines for the Puritan 2. That night, her friend Leon is murdered in his video store, which is beneath her apartment. The detectives again try to get her to help, but she doesn't. Instead, she goes to her agent, Teddy Knight, and tells him all about John Labatt. Teddy says not to worry and just focus on the movie. He's got it handled. On set, Maxine meets the previous star of the Puritan, Molly Bennett, who offers some acting advice and also says she's going to a big party up in the hills. John Labatt chases Maxine around the Universal backlot, but security guards grab him and throw him out. That night, Maxine tricks Labatt into a trap where he's knocked out and crushed inside his car by a junkyard trash compactor. With the help of her agent, of course. Maxine finally decides to visit the address Labatt gave her in the Hollywood Hills. She discovers her estranged father, who is a televangelist/cult leader, is the killer. He's been murdering these young women and making it look like the Night Stalker. He ties Maxine to a tree and plans to make a movie of his own showing the corrupt, sinful nature of Hollywood. He plans to stage a sort of exorcism and force Maxine to accept God into her life, or he will brand her just like the others. The LAPD detectives show up and engage in a shootout with Maxine's father and his disciples. They chase him up the hill. Both cops are mortally wounded in pursuit. Maxine finds her father injured laying on the ground and stands over him with a shotgun. She has a brief daydream where she's at the Puritan 2 premiere, being interviewed on the red carpet, and there's also a biopic that's being made of her life story. Snap back to reality. She tells her dad he didn't fail her. He gave her everything she needed. Quote, divine intervention. Then she shoots him. We then end with Maxine on the set filming The Puritan 2 and hoping that her Hollywood career shall never end. Roll them credits, boys.
Burn in hell.
Burn in hell.
Burn.
All right.
Oh, boys.
So
yeah.
I remember when we had the year of Pearl and X, and it was without a question that those movies were going to be in my top 10 horrors for the year. I think Pearl being 1 and X being like 3 or something like that. I don't know if this is going to make the top 10 of 2024. Maybe it'll, but actually probably not. I wasn't crazy about this movie. Yeah. And to be fair, I mean, there's a lot of hype going in. I wasn't like trying to like overhype myself too much. And I generally like really like Ty West films. There's been a handful of times where I think he just kind of pooped the bed a little bit. I don't think he necessarily did that here, but some of the elements that I've had problems with, like some of his other films, the Western that he did, that was like his worst film, I think, that I've seen. We're in here. I think it's a little self-indulgent. And overall, I remember like my reasoning for placing Pearl above Maxine is because like Maxine felt like more of an ensemble, like group type of movie. Like the other X? Or X, I'm sorry. Yes. I'm sorry. So the reason I put Pearl over X in my top 10 for that year is because like Pearl was the focus of Pearl and like she really shined in that. But I remember when X was done and they were like, oh, we're going to continue a movie with Maxine. I was like, well, I mean, Maxine was like a fine character, like in the grand scheme of things. But she really played off the fact that like Pearl was there and obsessed with her. And there were other interesting characters doing interesting things together. And I think my worries for that kind of like fleshed out here a little bit. I just don't particularly find the Maxine character as engrossing or interesting as the Pearl character, so I think that was a little disappointing too. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, for me, it's not a question that Pearl is the best of this bunch. Like that, like I just, and it could be that I'm just partial to a character study, or it could be that it's just a stronger film. Like, who's to say, really, except for me, and I don't know. So,
and I can't.
And I just don't have that answer. But yeah, like I think I might like this movie a little bit more than X personally. Like I really like X a lot for being like as close to Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake as you can possibly make. I like the cloistered, isolated feeling there. And this, like, all three movies are very, very different. But what I like about this one is two things. One is I really like the aesthetic of it. I think that I was really kind of anticipating it falling flat or like losing steam for me, but it actually was the opposite. I've like found myself more and more engrossed in this time period as the movie wore on, which was not the case for me with X. And Pearl was just kind of like top to bottom great in that regard. So like there's that. And then also I kind of liked the direct, it felt like a conclusion to me in one way, and that way is in how it deals with the central theme of all of these, which is about like morality, sexuality, and, you know, the social barriers put up against young people doing what they do with their bodies, or like people pursuing, like, the pursuit of fame or whatever is such a central part of Pearl, and central part for Maxine character, all that stuff. But like the thing that interested me was like the morality police aspect of things, the conversation that they had with Jenna Ortega and X, or their Pearl's mom talking about like the dutiful work that she should be doing, how she's just wasting time and being a burden. And then in this movie, it's like all comes to a head where like the puritanical thing. She's literally in a movie called The Puritan 2, first of all, that is being boycotted by the church. And then a church cult is murdering people to frame somebody else in order to discredit the movie industry as evil. Like, to me, that's what this whole franchise is. So if I'm going to like be like putting them above and under each other, to me, that's like it comes to a head nicely here. I will say that the Maxine character, though, on her own, in her own right, I totally agree with you. She's like fine, and she get like the performance is good, but like she's a little hard to read. Pearl was very upfront with what she was like going through. You could really tell, and part of that was the style. But Mia Goth in this is like a little bit harder to like, I don't know. She's a little harder to parse, and without somebody like a Pearl kicking around, or like a big bad that you actually see with a crazy performance. I guess the closest thing we have is Kevin Bacon, which I do like that performance, but it's also so informed by Jack Nicholson in Chinatown, and like what's his name, Nick Nolte in Cape Fear. Like he's like a combo of those two characters, like right down to the costume and the facial injury. Like, I don't know. Like, I like him, but I feel like that's more style than substance in his regard, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's how I'm feeling generally.
I think you make a good point about this sort of thematically having a solid like period when it comes to like the ending of a trilogy. But I found like this to be sort of underwhelming in the way that the characters of Pearl and Maxine, they're parallels. They're set up very clearly to be so, and there's no like real just desserts, I don't think, for Maxine. Like, she gets what she wants, and she is in X, she is very much an underdog, and you're kind of like rooting for her. She's got an edge to her for sure, but in this movie it felt just like it rang a little hollow at the end. For several reasons, I think. To me, like, it was like really obvious that her dad was going to be the bad guy in this. Because like, who else could it have been? It was just some random person we've never seen before, or just the actual Night Stalker, which would have been really lame. So it ended up being her dad, which was really easy to call. The cult was just kind of guns blazing. I don't know, the shootout. The detectives kind of die off screen, and then Maxine ends up blowing her dad away with either police or a news copter watching it happen, and then she just kind of goes free and makes her movie anyways. The ending is just really like quite lukewarm and it feels like an unsatisfactory ending for the character of Maxine in a way that this actually feels like a middle movie to me, and not like the ending of a trilogy is the way the ending of it hit for me. Did you guys vibe with that at all?
Yeah, I just
partially.
there's no. Yeah, you're right. It's kind of stupid for them to keep the dad in the dark like that, because one of my biggest problems is like there was nobody for Maxine to play off of in this film. So in Pearl, you have the mother for a lot of it as this conflict. I want you to live this kind of more pure life. I want you to stay here. I want you to help take care of your dad. There's this kind of like conflict there. And then she also has like the guy who runs the theater or whatever, who's going to take her to Europe and who's going to sleep with her and all that stuff. And then she has like a husband. So like there's more conflict there. And then in X, you have Pearl and Maxine playing off of each other. And then you have the other things too that are interesting, like the Jenna Ortega situation and stuff like that. Here, they're just like, they should have had the dad be a character. It almost felt a little bit like Scream 3, where somebody shows up at the end and you're like, well, I don't know who you are.
And here's
I agree with that.
Yeah.
This is the only one of the three that is not, I feel like is not really self-contained. Like, not in the same way, because like, you're right. Like, it was kind of easy to tell that the dad was the villain. And I think that now that you've said the word Giallo, I immediately think that that is the reason that they did it that way, because there is no reason to otherwise. Like, we don't know that character. The only hint we get of him in this movie is the intro with her dad talking to the little girl version of her about how she's going to be a star and showing how he like kind of passed that into her a little bit. But it's not really fleshed out at all. And the only other hint, the only reason we know for sure that he's going to be involved is because he is heavily hinted at the end of X. So, like, as it being involved in some way. So, like, I don't know. I feel like that's not enough to set him up as a big bad. You know what I mean? He feels like out of left field because he's not established in this film well enough.
Well, the movie opens up with Maxine as a little girl, and her dad is like off screen talking to her, feeding her lines and telling her she's going to be a star and all that shit. So like, it opens up with a reminder of like, she was raised in kind of a bizarre, overtly Christian upbringing. So it does start the tone of this movie with that. But it just, you don't see him, you don't. But really
you quickly forget that. Like, they don't. If they had one scene of her talking to her whatever friend, the VHS store guy, I don't know. It's kind of seemed like a boyfriend, maybe a friend, whatever. But like, if they had one conversation about like her conflict and the way like her past or something with her dad, with her church, with prudishness in general, and how she came to reject that, like, I think that it would sell better. But it doesn't. I don't feel like I don't think it. I just feel like just having that little hint at the beginning is not enough on its own. The only reason that it made so much sense to us is because it was hinted at one other time, and not like, that's what's great about Pearl and X is like, they homage each other, they reference each other, but they don't depend on each other. And I think in that way, this movie depends on X.
I kind of half expected this movie to end in, I don't know, like a similarly disappointing way that like Pearl ended for Pearl. Like, Maxine would, if she's going to blow her dad's head off or whatever, and it's, there's a camera or police officers watching, like, she would then be like locked away in prison, but become like infamous for these like crazy horrible acts that she did.
Yeah.
Instead of like let her career continue and then just potentially actually become a famous movie star like she wanted. It's like there is no real lesson here for this character. She just is ruthless and gets what she wants at the end of the day, I guess. Well,
they drop a line where the cop is like, people don't realize the difference between fame and infamy or something like that when the girls are dying and they're talking about pursuing fame. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's and really too, because the whole thing, I think it would have been more interesting because they kind of played up as the reason for Ethan Hawke to be like involved in this situation and stuff, but it
Kevin
almost
Bacon.
like her. I know. But it almost is this thing of, I thought they were going to play up a little bit more of the idea of like people keep ruining my life, or people keep involving themselves in my life that fuck it up, which would have played well with the conflict with the dad, because if the reason she feels like she is not advancing in her career or achieving her dreams is because she has to change her name, she's on the run, people suspect her of murder or like something like that, and like people keep interfering in her life, well, then an ending like that where she has to kill her father defending herself but is ultimately locked away because of it, where she gets the fame of like being a murderer but not the fame of like being a movie star, like that might have some like more connection. This movie doesn't really do anything. Like it
feels like a middle movie, like a bridge.
It doesn't even, I don't feel like it's got a good through line. Like I remember getting to like the 50-minute mark and being like, what are we doing?
Which is kind of true to most Giallo movies, where just like, I don't really know what this adds up to, which isn't necessarily something to aim for when you're rounding out a trilogy, but it is like strangely accurate in that way. I do really like, the ending is unsatisfying, I think, but I still did enjoy like sitting in the theater watching this movie. I think Ty West is just like so incredibly talented when it comes to recreating a style of a specific decade, and I think he does it in a way that's not like overly nostalgic and like ramped up. I think he is able to do it in a very truthful manner for the most part, and I think he does that here. There's a lot of times when the aspect ratio changes and it looks like, you know, something you would have shot on like VHS on a Handycam or something, or 8mm, I guess, back in the early 80s, whatever. And the lighting, the grain doesn't feel like it's digitally added, even though I'm sure it probably was. I don't believe this was shot on film. I was trying to find the answer to that, but I couldn't. I believe it was shot digitally, though. The split screens and like the side swipes, the like crazy car tail spins, and like not overly neon, but like just enough neon in this. It's like grimy and dirty and in a realistic feeling way. I think he nails all that stuff.
I think the fucking gore shots, like the kills in this are like way, like comparatively to me, completely amped up from most of the kills in the previous one. Just like it's just far more visceral and more bloody and more like, and to me that speaks to the time period as well. I think that like all that was really done well. As far as like, to me it's like the through line is not the through line is the idea of being controlled by other people's hangups, essentially, like being controlled. And that to me, that does work. I think that having her like go to jail in response to taking her power back from her father or whatever would have made a kind of sense. It would have been a tragic end for her, but like I don't know that like the just desserts conversation, she's ruthless, but she's not like the most evil person. Most of the time in this franchise, she is aggressing back at aggressors, people that want to hurt her. The only person she outright plots to kill is Ethan Hawke. Kevin Bacon,
that's what it made.
Hunting her basically.
That's what it would have made the kind of like tragic ending kind of that makes sense. Because it's like if every time you see her, she's doing these brutal things, but she's defending herself or she's doing it. And we've already seen that in Pearl. And if we see where because like here, like she's successful as an adult actress, but I just want to be a movie star. So like that's the main drive of the movie, which isn't like that interesting. I mean, it makes sense for the character, but like if each time, you know, like she finally gets this role that she wants, and again, someone inserts themselves in their life, trying to control her, trying to do the things they want her to do, and ultimately she loses that because she's just defending herself. Well, I think that just makes a more potent ending. I don't know. Like I kind
of do too, but I just don't see it as like just desserts. I see it as a tragic end, a tragic ending that would make thematic sense.
she's not like a full-blown anti-hero or anything like that in this, but
and she's not a serial killer. That's the thing that separates her from Pearl, is she is not like inherently a killer, and
so
Pearl
she's not interesting.
That's
like
I do think it's interesting. It's funny that all like Jean Labatt is a fucking pain in her ass this whole movie, and Kevin Bacon plays that role fantastically. I really think he kills it. But all he essentially wants her to do is go to the address, and as soon as she finally murders him, she just goes to the address. Like it does.
Yeah,
it doesn't change
she does
anything.
She does it.
Yeah.
Why'd you do it? As like
to go
like,
try and save the other actress that just went up there.
Actress, that's right. Yeah, I was like, it was for some altruistic reason, which is like very counter to her. Like that's the other thing is like I could also see a version of this ending where she just decides not to shoot her dad and decides that some like not necessarily not being ruthless, but like she's not going to hurt herself in pursuit of hurting somebody who's trying to hold her down. It actually serves her better to just stand on her own 2 feet and walk away. You know what I mean? Like learn that lesson maybe.
Other than murdering Labatt, I guess the worst thing she really does is like she refuses to cooperate with the police in fear of putting herself at risk, and because of that, several of her coworkers and friends are murdered.
Yeah, but she doesn't control that. I don't see that as like egregious at all. Like putting herself in like basically ruining her own life in pursuit of circumventing or like I don't know. She's afraid for her own life. Her friends are getting murdered. I don't blame her for not talking to the police, especially when they're being so aggressive with her. Like I don't know. I think the whole thing is like it's understandable why somebody would need to protect themselves. If the Night Stalker is going to kill people, they're going to kill people. All you can do is watch out for yourself to some extent.
Yeah, that whole like red herring in this movie was nothing, man. The Night Stalker, I know it's like, you know, a real thing, and I typically really don't like when fictional like properties like this is a trilogy. It's all made up. None of it's really based on anything real, and then all of a sudden you have this actual serial killer kind of thrown into it. I don't like it when filmmakers do that. I mean, I'm glad that it was basically only mentioned in this and really didn't play into the plot in any major way. It just sort of it feels like you're really pandering to people who love true crime in a way that it's like almost the worst way to do that. Because you're not even trying to like talk about the survivors or the victims or like you know it's not like educational in any way. It's purely entertainment, and I don't know. That just generally bothers me a little bit.
I would just say that this movie, it just felt unfocused in that I don't necessarily, I could see Bob's point. It doesn't bother me as much in that way, but I would just say like as a device for a film, it just feels like kind of it feels like something to put in a trailer, which they did. And also too, in the same way, the like Psycho House being on the set, which I thought was an underutilized, not just the Psycho House, but like I do like the chase scene through the lot, you know, the studio lot. But I felt like that could have been utilized or played up in an even more fun kind of way. But just like standing outside the Psycho House to have a dialogue and kind of like try to have this point delivered by this director, just sometimes it felt too self-indulgent. It felt like Ty West was being too cute with a lot of things. It felt like he was like trying to like deliver these clever or witty or like ideas that I'm just like, dude, first give me like an interesting, good narrative first. And I just feel like that's severely lacking from this film.
I thought we were
an interesting character or narrative.
I thought we were at least going to get a cool kill at the Psycho House, and you don't even get that. It's really... Dude. It's just eye candy. It's like
you get Larry Fessenden.
You do.
It's just something to put in the trailer. Yeah, it's like the Psycho House. It's like it doesn't do anything.
To jump back to the Night Stalker thing, like I agree that it's kind of like that. I don't love it when movies do this or when it's worked into fiction in that way. I would argue though that I think it's another example. I think that decision is also informed by a need to a desire to place set, to make the setting work, and part of like that is a huge factor for satanic panic fears, and like the Night Stalker is kind of central to satanic panic fears and Hollywood's grungy underbelly, like reckoning, the feeling of like paranoia that was going on at this time. I think it's all to like zone us in on that. And to that extent, I think it works fine, but I just think it is a little ghoulish to use the real thing, even though I can understand why it's easier to tap into if it's the real thing. To actually like get that sort of reflected resonance. So I can understand why you'd want to do it, but I just don't like it when people do that because for similar reasons, Bob. It's just like, to me, that does feel more style or substance. I think you can do the same thing with a different killer name, like, you know, whatever it is, like the Hills Killer or something like that.
Yeah. Whatever.
Stalking the streets. It's the same fucking thing. You know what I mean? Like, and we don't know the Hills Killer, so it actually feeds a little more directly into the red herring of the father and maybe gives that a little more potential.
You know, another thing I thought they were going to do, I thought they were going to do this, which would have been kind of cool too. I thought she was going to choose to kill her father with the thought of what the cop said earlier of, oh, infamy, you know, through the violence, you gain the fame. But what I thought was going to happen is she was going to choose that path, which she did, to kill her father, and the thoughts that like, well, if I can't make it as a movie star, I'll make it as this famous like person or whatever who has done this ridiculous thing. But it was going to be completely overshadowed by the fact that just at that moment, also too, the Night Stalker was caught. So she like goes to all these things thinking it's going to gain her fame. Somebody else overshadows her, and she just loses everything. Like, so the thing is, because they did a cut. Yeah, they did a cut. Like, oh, the Night Stalker is caught. And I was like, oh my god, her whole
that's an irony. You know?
But dude, they didn't do any of the interesting things. He didn't do anything interesting.
I think they wanted this to end like Pearl ended with such a down note for the character, like, and it felt fine because she was just a stone cold killer who also wanted to be famous, and that doesn't seem to be the case for Maxine. She is ruthless, yes, but to an end. You know what I mean? She's not just killing a random movie dude because he said she's a little scary. You know what I mean? Like, or she's not just stabbing geese for no reason, or, you know, any of that shit. She is defending herself in most cases to the hilt, in fairness. And I think that that's supposed to be what I think we're supposed to be rooting for her as like, I hate to say this because it's like, it's reductive and stupid, but it's like a girl bossy thing almost, where it's like she's taking control of herself in a world that doesn't respect her or the way she's her body and all stuff. Yeah. She's a bad bitch, and she's going to take, I'm like, that can work. That can work, but it's not like, it's not really coming off here to me. It just doesn't, to me, like having her win in the end, it goes against logic in pursuit of the feeling that like, you know, she came out the other side and like she's the queen of the hive now or whatever. I don't need that. I need it to make a narrative sense.
I wonder in a pessimistic kind of way if, like, the threads are there. Ty West is a good writer. We know he is. We've seen his other movies. I wonder if he sort of like maybe pulled the punch at the end a little bit just to leave room enough to make another movie. Like in the hopes that not. Maybe they could get bankrolled for a fourth film. And maybe that's not the case. But it just I don't think they would need that. Like that, you know?
They've already made a whole movie out of
I agree,
Pearl, like, which was by no means like a character that screamed sequel on her own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not in the form that we got it. Like, it can be like tangentially related and just homage. Like the little girl Maxine does the same dance that Pearl does in her audition, if you notice in that opening thing. Like, things like that, you can make hay out of that if you really want to make a sequel.
Yeah,
and just make it stand. The trick is to make it stand alone. So if they did that for the
Let's
purposes
talk
of
about
making a
some
sequel with
positives.
Maxine.
We
I don't
have
know.
circled this drain for quite half an episode. So, something that I think this does do a lot of, Juice, you kind of mentioned like X does a little bit of this too, with like it's more of an ensemble, like a fun cast of characters. I think this does have that going for it. Maybe not to the same extent, but I think the introduction of Kevin Bacon in this is fantastic. Giancarlo Esposito, to a lesser extent, is also really great as her sort of ruthless manager who's like mobbed up in some way. Sophie Thatcher, the girl that does all the practical effects work in this, does a really great job. I've been seeing her a lot on Yellow Jackets.
I like her a lot.
She kills it
but
in that.
She's minor in this.
She is minor. She is. Her best friend, played by Moses Sumney, I don't know if I've seen him in anything else, but I really loved his character as this just nerd, the skateboarding nerd who works at a VHS shop. He's like stocking the shelves, who's like assumedly her gay friend, because she says something along the lines like, you're the only person not trying to fuck me, or he says that to her, something like that.
He says,
I
she's
didn't hear
like, why
that.
are you the only guy that like I like her? And he's like, because I'm the only one who's
Right.
not trying to fuck you. Yeah.
It's like that relationship is cool. I like that character. His kill is probably the best in the whole movie too.
What? Oh, I thought you were gonna like that one. Oh, I thought that like slow-mo kill was so cheesy. That was the too self-indulgent thing that I thought Ty West was getting into.
That
It was
is like
too, I was like, oh god, Bob's
Giallo-iest
gonna
kill,
like
though.
this. And I was like, this is too
kinda
much.
liked it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say
that's-
it's the best.
Okay.
I liked it fine.
What
I thought it was like the amount of blood and all that stuff. I thought that worked nice.
Did you have one that you preferred in the movie?
Well, I liked moments better. So
Yeah.
one moment that I really liked was the creating of the mask, where she has her panic attack. That was a
Right.
great
Mhm.
scene.
Yeah.
That was a fantastic scene, because like you get to use fear in like an interesting kind of way, and then also reference the kind of like, I know he's doing the movie making experience and being a star. So I thought that was a good natural balance. This person has trauma. They're left alone where you can't hardly fucking breathe. You can't see. You think somebody's after you. There's also like these horror masks surrounding you and stuff. That I just thought that felt natural and worked perfectly well. And you could have even taken that idea and done it again with sets. You know, like you're on a interesting set piece and you're shooting a horror film. So it's designed to be spooky or mysterious or like, you know, like you could have played with that even a little bit more, I thought. But kill wise, well, I don't know. What kills do we have in
There's
this?
not a
What
lot,
were some kills?
honestly. There's
dad at
the
the
ball
end.
crush, which isn't a kill, but that's great.
No, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, the dad
okay.
at the end,
That
the
was the
best friend. You see the actress that she goes to save. You don't see her die, but you see her dismembered body like fall out of a suitcase and roll down the stairs.
You see a lot of gore, but you don't
No,
see
Kevin Bacon's
Bacon
death
crush
is
scene.
the best. The crush,
Oh,
that
yeah, that's
crush
pretty
scene. That
great.
was a great scene. That was the best.
I think the crushed balls is the most impactful thing.
Yeah.
But everyone in that theater jumped.
It's the most
and-
memorable thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it fucking ruled. But
She made
Yeah,
that
I
dude
liked all the
blow
gore in
her
this.
pistol beforehand too, which
he did. But she called him. He was dressed as Buster Keaton. She's like, "Freeze, Buster!" And I was like, "God, this is so fucking ridiculous. I love this.
you want to play? Now we're playing. That whole scene is great. Yeah,
I
that
love that so much. Like, I don't know. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, I don't know. Like, as far as like having it be an ensemble, I really didn't feel the ensembleness of this. I definitely think that she and Kevin Bacon and I think the director was pretty good at what she was bringing to the table.
I wish I had
liked
more,
those
yeah.
three characters,
Me
but I
too.
think that and I did like the best friend. I thought but I thought that he was underutilized a little
Me
bit.
too.
And I feel like everybody else in the movie, like Giancarlo Esposito, all those people, the two girls that got killed, I think they were kind of they were kind of forgettable. They weren't really they were players in the story, but they were kind of red shirts, and they're like they didn't.
Yeah,
I don't feel that Giancarlo really was given a lot to work with either.
I thought they were kind of cheesy, to be honest. I thought the manager, the guy cop, I don't.
Cops I did not enjoy.
There were two. Sometimes it was like too over the top because so the boyfriend, no, the best friend and the director were really solid, but played like pretty straight. They were just interesting types of characters in interesting ways, and I felt they were underutilized. And then you have these other characters who feel like cartoons or something. The manager was too much and it was really cheesy to me. And the cop was like too much. And his death on the I wanted to be a star. I was like, this is so cheesy. I thought it was so corny to me. I didn't like that.
I think a lot of the references and influences for this are generally movies and styles that aren't really your bag to begin with, Juice. So that does kind of make some sense.
But also, too, it's too self-indulgent. It's okay to reference something or to do it, but like that slow motion kill, I was just like rolling my eyes. I was like, my guy, you're trying too hard. It felt too try hard to me. And that like, I wanted to be a star and like dying. It's like, we don't even like this guy. Why is this the guy who's supposed to have some kind of emotional resonance of like, I want to be a star dying on the, we don't even like him and we don't even see him get killed. It's like done off screen. It was so cheesy and corny and like try hard. I didn't like the characters like you liked them.
Yeah, I didn't like the cops particularly. I thought that was pretty melodramatic at the end. Like he didn't need that. I think that the woman cop was a little bit like better because I could understand like it was sort of like a Goofus and Gallant sort of thing where she was the person who actually could have gotten Maxine to help them in some way, and she is the like I don't know. It just didn't really work that part. Giancarlo though, I can understand your point, but I thought that like for this place and time. Like somebody like a skeevy fucking wigged agent who had also like has like fucking cartel connections or some shit, not cartel, like whatever, like murderous fucking hitman at his disposal. Like I think that tracks fine. Like it is cartoonish, but it was kind of a cartoonish. It was kind of cartoon. It's a stereo. It's not even a stereotype. What am I looking for? It's like an archetype for a reason. So people make cartoons out of it. But like, I think to some extent there was some of that going on, and so I'm okay with somebody like leaning into that. Even like if you want to look at him, the boyfriend or whatever. Like I keep saying that. I didn't realize that they said that. But like the best friend, like he's very like he plays it very naturally. But he's like an 80s punk. Like he's like an 80s punk skater kid. He's fitting a stereotype as well, or an archetype.
Yeah, he is.
So, and the director is a smug fucking artist. You know what I mean? Like if you want to break him down into cartoon characteristics, he can. But I think that they all add to those two at least add to the feeling of
I like the director
reality in this cartoonishness.
In this a lot, and she drives home so hard the necessity of being ruthless to make it in the industry, and like this movie actually kind of lacks that sort of ruthlessness. It feels like a little bit like it pulls its punches to me overall, specifically the end, but like it could have been.
I think the end is where it pulls its punch, and like I really just think it all comes down to like not wanting Maxine to suffer the same fate as Pearl and giving you somebody to root for, because like Pearl has already got a little bit of like that steam of being like someone who takes charge or whatever, but she's also a sociopathic fucking killer, and Maxine is a self-defender. Like she's a Bugs Bunny and Pearl is a Daffy Duck. You know what I mean? There's an aggressor and then a defender there, and so by all justification, I think it's fair to say that like she's ruthless, she's doing it for her own good, and only when aggressed against. I think that all makes sense, that she deserves to succeed, but getting what you deserve kind of runs giving what you deserve, if that's what you deserve, runs counter to me to the overall feeling that you are being oppressed by overwhelming forces. If you're going to play that and you're going to have to surmount that, I think you just got to play it a little differently than they did. Yeah. So like ultimately, here's the thing though, like you're right. I've been harping on this too, but like this is a fun fucking movie. I had so much fun watching this. I had more fun watching this than I did watching X the first time. And like, so to me, like that is half the battle. Like experientially, I had a great time. I felt like the place setting was immaculately good and fun. I thought it was just like you said, Justin, unfocused in a lot of narrative ways. A few good ways it was focused, but there was a lot of unfocused stuff going on.
Yeah,
just maybe too much going on. Too many things.
A little too scattershot. So another thing I really enjoyed was the score and the soundtrack. There's a lot of 80s bangers in here. As far as the score, there was a lot of nice synth stuff. And then like during the kills, specifically the one that you didn't like, Juice, it had that, it's like Giallo, like big goofy drum synth thing happening that is goblin-esque. I like that. I like that he's hearkening back to it and not like going full Giallo. It's also like pretty twisted to think that the killer is her father and he goes and like watches her dance at a peep show and like
yeah.
Why? If you know she works, you know what's going on. You don't have to go watch. Like, you know, you just know what happens in those places.
That's the thing that could have been played up.
Yeah,
that religious aspect, especially with the religious panic going on at the time, they didn't play that
Satanic
up either. And I thought like that could have, the dad's a creeper. He even when he touches her arm, he kind of like lingers, or like there's this weird moment where he like kind of like rubs her arm or something. And I'm just like, there's pieces, there's pillars here, there's great elements. Like, yeah, that's a great thing to point out. He goes and watches her at a peep show, but it's like, because we don't know the character, because that's not interwoven into this story, or her even like overcoming that type of thinking or lifestyle or anything, it just fizzles out because it's not developed well.
I think that the pursuit of the Giallo killer hurt this movie for that reason. Like, I feel like if we had more connection to who the father is and we got to understand that he was this way a little bit better before the villain monologue at the end, and then I think it might have sold a little bit easier. As it was just kind of like, you know, I don't know. I just feel like I really like the religious aspect to this. I think that there's like, it adds to what we already had with X, which was like sort of the misogynistic control of women's bodies and fortunes, and Pearl, where it's like just like your internal issues fucking you up, basically your internal demons. In this case, like Maxine's demons are put upon to her by a rigid society, and she could fight back from that justifiably, but we don't get to even see that she's fighting that for most of the movie. Like the only times we get, like they hinted it heavily. They talk about the protesters. The movie's called The Puritan 2. Like and the director does harp on that stuff. The director kind of tries to fill that gap a little bit, but it seems to speak more to my mind, to the idea of overcoming misogyny again. And that's like, it doesn't really comport with what's happening at the end to me. That seems more religious than just strict misogyny. Yeah. I just feel like there's something more they could have done there, maybe. But I still liked it. I still liked that was the tack that they took. I like the idea of going so far down the rabbit hole of being pro censorship, anti sexuality, all that stuff, being very religious, to the point where you're willing to maim and murder people because your kids ran away because you were oppressive in the first place. I think that's very fucking interesting, but we don't get a lot of time with it.
Yeah. I think it's interesting how they set up Maxine, like when she does her audition and like clearly nails it. It's a great bit of acting, maybe her strongest bit of acting in the whole movie, actually. They just like focus on her face. And then after she clearly knocks it out of the park and is a shoo-in for the role, they're like, "Oh yeah, take your top off. We got to see your breasts." It's like it's a kick in the crotch, and I think that sort of sets up a framework that you might expect to be carried through. That isn't quite carried through in the way I thought it would, anyways. But yeah, it's a little too like scattershot, a little too messy.
It's like there's a lot of ideas, but not a lot of like threading that that creates a whole tapestry, I guess, is a bad metaphor.
Yeah, there's nothing
for it.
connecting these ideas that are ultimately underdeveloped. You have interesting characters that are played well by most people that are mostly underdeveloped or underutilized. You have these interesting ideas about religion or about, you know, like the industry or just, I don't know, but they're underutilized and they're not played against each other. If you could play this one aspect that you have that's interesting over here off of this aspect that's interesting over here, then they would bounce off together well. But for the most part, they're just kind of like separated and just underdeveloped. It's frustrating. It's frustrating.
There's a lot of that going on. The scattershot, unfocused nature is the biggest issue, but like, God, what a ride. I really enjoyed it. I think it was paced really nicely. I thought it was stylistically just so fucking fun, and it just got more fun as time went on. I would say the best. The CTR like lines and stuff. Like they just did a lot of little things. Maybe arguably too many things to set this movie in the setting that it's in. To the hilt, all as far as they possibly could, and I just appreciate it. I like it.
I really like Kevin Bacon in this movie. I was reading my Fangoria. There was an article in there where they interviewed Ty West, and Kevin Bacon apparently like sought Ty West out because he loved X and Pearl so much. He's like, dude, put me in, coach. And
that's awesome.
He explained the role of Labatt to him, and he was like, yeah, I'm down. And his instructions to Kevin Bacon, which I assume were probably to Giancarlo Esposito, to most people in this, is to like swing for the fences, play it big, don't worry about like holding back. And I think that really does make the Labatt character work for me. Like, I love that he's larger than life with this like stereotypical, although I don't think very authentic New Orleans accent, and he's just kind of like sweaty, and he's got his pants up over his belly button and his giant tie, and I like that he's a bit cartoonish, honestly. It's funny.
Me too, man. I like, what's his name? Like, he's like Benoit Blanc almost. Like he's he's taking it there, and like I also appreciate that. Like cartoonish, a little bit, but it's like, this world is a little cartoon. It's like it is a pastiche overall, but he still plays it real enough to seem threatening. The actions that they give him to take and the way his attitude towards her is like, it's believably threatening. And like, I think that it's tough to straddle that line, but he does it. He reminded me of like a Coen Brothers movie guy. Like it just, it was that.
I could totally
see him. Like, he feels like he belongs in Blood Simple or something.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, that's a good call, man. It does have that vibe. Or like the Fargo series, like totally could be a character in there. Yeah, so I like that though. Yeah, go ahead.
Does anyone nail their accent in this movie? I think they're all pretty right. This is for Mia Goth too. This is the one that it makes it makes a little more sense for Pearl. She literally lives on a farm in the middle of nowhere and communicates with like two people most of her life. Maxine, so I don't know, maybe it's because she's in the setting or whatever, but her Southern accent this time around was, I think, the most troublesome it's been.
I kind of feel like, you're right with Pearl. It's like that does make a logical kind of sense. In X, her lines are pretty sparse. She doesn't do a lot of talking in that movie. Yeah,
she's not talking as much. I did this one, but maybe it's because everyone's accents are so wild too. So, you know, Maxine's accent is kind of wonky and annoying at times. But then is it John Carlos? Isn't he doing like a weird accent too? I think everybody's doing an accent that just doesn't seem to work well for them. Like nobody's doing it well. I feel like
he has an accent, but I'm not sure what that accent actually is. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it's evocative of a certain kind of Los Angeles, like Hollywood agent type of person. But he's also like a Hispanic man, so he might be bringing some of that to the table too. I'm not sure what he's going for, to be honest. But to me, it sounded it didn't feel wonky to me. I didn't peg it as unnatural in any bigger of a way than it is for. He's just playing boisterous. You know what I mean? That's what I took away from him. The same way that Kevin Bacon was, where it's just like about boisterousness. The only thing that was different is that I couldn't identify like that he's like trying to be Foghorn Leghorn necessarily. I just didn't know which cartoon character he might be going for.
Yeah, didn't bother me necessarily. Boys, are there any other major points you want to hit on before we rate this thing?
No, not me.
All right, let's do it. Out of 5, Randy, why don't you kick us off? How do you feel about Maxine?
Yeah, so like all in all, I was happy with this movie. It was to be honest, like I was kind of prepared for it to not be good, even like to maybe hate it. Hate might be a strong word, but I was ready to be pretty disappointed, and I just wasn't. Like I just had a good time watching this movie. The performances were fun, the kills were fun, the setting was fun, and I really like the thematic, the narrative strain about puritanical values over, being oppressive towards people, and overcoming that, and what it takes to overcome that, and what it like all those things. I like all of those things quite a lot. All the other stuff that we've already complained about, yeah, I see some faults in that, but all in all, I think it's maybe an easier rewatch for me than X. But Pearl stands alone amongst this trio for me, but by a pretty wide margin. It is the star maker of the three in my mind for both Mia Goth and Ty West. Like that's what justifies the hollowed tones with which we speak about this franchise. So that said, I enjoyed this movie, but it's flawed. I think that a 3.75 is a reasonable score to give it.
3 3/4 from Randy. Juice, what about you?
I think the strongest thing about this film is its look. It looks good, but at the same time, in the same way we talked about, like, oh my God, the oversaturation of zombie movies. It's like at this point in 2024, the 80s aesthetic and has been fucking done so much, like so fucking much, even with the talking about, and that includes things like the soundtrack and stuff. It's been saturated, and so this time around, even though it looks very beautiful, it doesn't impact me as much as it would have 10 years ago. So that kind of hurts it a little bit. I do like the going through the sets and the aspects of the idea of making a movie. Like I said, that scene where they do the mask is fantastic. I do generally like Kevin Bacon's character, and I thought his kill was really awesome. I wish almost they would have leaned into more, instead of maybe doing giallo stuff, more of the exploitation type of stuff for this kind of gritty setting. I don't know. I feel like that would have served it maybe a little well, because I like that junkyard scene, or even the scene where she's in the alley, and she deals with that guy. That's got more of an exploitation type of feel. I think those were the highlights of the film, and ultimately, I think there was a lot of positive things to work with here, and I just don't think he connected them well. I wish the dad wasn't just thrown in at the end. I wish these cops, who we don't really like or care about, aren't the ones that gets the emotional kind of resonant ending, or I don't know. I wish there was a little bit more balance in just general tone, and a little bit more focus. This, in my opinion, I didn't even, Randy saying, it was just so much fun to watch. I didn't necessarily I didn't think it was a thrill ride. There was some fun scenes, I would say. But to me, this doesn't come anywhere close to X or Pearl. And I was generally just kind of disappointed with it, and didn't think it had much narrative, and that the ending mostly fell flat. I'm going to give it a 2.5. I was not impressed with this film.
2.5.
Bob, where are you?
Bob, out of 5.
I'm right here.
Where are you, Bob?
Where did you go?
Guys,
oh, right God, here. The Blues. They buried him.
The Blues, they fell.
Send more blues.
The house is fallen.
I think this is probably my least favorite of the trilogy, but that is, to be fair, a pretty high bar. I really think X and Pearl were great, and I don't think this movie is a total pile of shit by any means. Similar to Randy, my experience of watching it, I had a really good time in the theater. It's visually really quite stunning. There's a handful of good kills, some good gore, some solid performances. The soundtrack is banging. There's definitely a lot here. It's also not
banging.
like... It is banging.
Banging.
With a hard G there. It's referencing a lot of like 80s slashers and giallo movies that I tend to enjoy. I do really wish there was more gore in this, though. There's like I think there's at least 3 kills off screen, maybe even more. And that kind of is a bummer. I want to, like, if you're doing the slasher giallo, like, you know, give us the red stuff. Let's get nuts, you know. The ball stomping sequence was solid. Kevin Bacon, I just really enjoy his character and his addition. Giancarlo Esposito as well. The ending, we've said, falls flat for several reasons. I wish there was a bigger bad that was just more satisfying. So, I don't know. I do also, I generally like movies about making movies. And I think there's a lot of cool stuff here that they maybe don't use to its fullest extent when they're shooting a certain like flashback sequence, I think, for the movie, where the actress like bites into a bloody apple and they have to like reset and like add more blood on her face and stuff like that. Like I think there's just more that you could do with scenes like that. But like the suffocating sequence was really great. Apparently that's very common too. I think that plaster gets hot when it's setting as well. So like,
dude, that would freak me out.
It's hard to breathe and you're starting to heat up. Like that's going to freak some folks out, especially if it's like your first time, I would imagine. And she leaves the room, which I'm sure is a big no-no, you know, like you're just fucked.
The 80s.
Yeah. Figure it out.
Yeah. Cocaine.
But the backlot chase is cool. It feels like a more horror version of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I kind of feel the same way about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as I do this. There's like a lot of like real stuff. It's like what do they call it? A fiction. I don't know, historical fiction. That's what I'm
historical fiction. Yeah.
Yeah, where it's like partly true, but then you kind of make some other stuff up, and it's like, well, why are we doing this? You know, it feels like a little messy and. You know, that movie's fine. This movie's fine. I could watch them both and have a decent time, but that kind of thing's maybe just not my vibe specifically. I don't really love that kind of thing. But then I'll watch Inglourious Bastards and just fucking love every second of it. So maybe I'm a liar.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I'm just a total liar. This movie's okay though. Ty West, I think, is definitely done better. I'm kind of in between y'all. Maybe a little closer to Randy here. I'm gonna give this a 3.5 out of 5, and that's gonna put our aggregate at a 3.25 for Maxine.
It's a big step down from Pearl and X, boys.
Yeah.
Did you look it up? I was going to do that.
I think
I have
X. It's got to be close to like 4.5, and I think Pearl's like close to a 5.
Yeah. So I gave both Pearl and X a 4.5. Yeah. So I like. Yeah. Unbeknownst to me, I think my opinion of Pearl has gone up. My opinion of X has gone down over time because I see X now as more of a 3.5, 3.75 maybe. This is 3.75, maybe a 4, but Pearl is a 5, man. That's a hard 5 for me. But you guys, on the other hand, Bob, you gave Pearl a 4 and gave X a 4.25.
Whoa.
Which seems low for Pearl for me. And then Juice, you gave Pearl a 5 and X a 4. So I didn't hear what you gave this movie. What did you give this movie?
2.5.
2.5, which that's a significant downgrade.
It is a significant downgrade.
So you're the only one amongst us who has the full consistency in your score here, because I've definitely fluctuated since then.
Consistent soju.
I don't think I've really changed at all. 4.25 for X, 4 for Pearl, and 3.5 for
I guess that's true. So
Bob put X over Pearl in his top 10. Yeah. So
okay, yeah, then that's crazy to me. By the way, that's crazy. You're crazy.
It was crazy to me at the time.
I'm just insane, brother.
Bob, your opinions are wild.
Wild opinions.
I can't handle them.
Opinions are like my asshole. Wild.
Wild and full of shit.
Hell yeah, brother. Yeah, so that's 3.25 from us on Maxine. Let's go ahead and jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment, see what the critics and users think about the film.
Certified fresh to death.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Rotten Tomatoes segment in which I'm going to have these gentlemen guess within the best of their abilities what the aggregate positive score is for Maxine on RottenTomatoes.com. We're going to start as we always do with the critical review. That aggregate is going to be an aggregate of 181 reviews. So 181 is the magic number here. We'll start with Juice today. Juice, where do you think, what percentage of those 181 reviews would you wager are positive reviews?
I think critics are maybe going to go higher on this one. Also, too, like critics love movies about Hollywood and making movies and stuff. There's this like obsession with LA that I don't really like, or like, I don't know, Hollywood, California, that I don't really get. I don't know. I don't really care about it, honestly. So I think it's just going to get this like weird boost. So I don't know. I'll take The Boys 86.
All right, The Boys. Rob, you got a necktie remedy from Juice. What about you?
Dude, I feel pretty differently. I think the general vibe is very mixed on this, and I don't know. I could see critics really not liking this because, you know, for all the reasons that we've already stated. So
we are critics.
Definitely the under, but how far under shall I go? I'm going to be, I think, fairly conservative with a 70 on this.
70. All right. So that's quite a gap. There's a 16-point gap between you guys, and between the winner and the correct response, there is only 5 points. The correct response is, of course, 75%. Bob's going to take this one away.
All right.
75%.
Not as low as you thought, though, Bob.
Not as low as I thought. Yeah,
Yeah, not as low as I thought either. I had only heard a couple of things about this movie up until this point, and they were mostly disappointment. Like, I think those have been the loudest voices so far, it seems to be, at least that I've seen. So I'm pleasantly surprised because I think this movie deserves some praise.
Yeah.
We're going to go over to the audience score now. There are 250 plus verified ratings for this film. We're going to go in reverse order with Bob starting us off. Out of those 250 plus ratings, what do you imagine to be the aggregate positive score?
That's a small sample for the audience. I think, again, man, it seems to be pretty mixed with folks. I think the horror crowd definitely came out for this, so they might get a kick out of the references. They you know, people watching this probably have seen the other movies. I would hope they've seen the other movies. They know a little bit about Ty West, what he's doing. So low-ish, but not too low. You know, there's still some good stuff happening here. If the critics was a 75, I'm going to say there's going to be maybe a slight uptick of rage machines that just like to rage about things that are maybe not exactly what they wanted them to be, and drop this down a little bit. I'm gonna go a little lower with I'll take the comedy number of 69. That feels right.
Whoa.
69, dudes!
That's the name of Maxine's most recent film. Soju, where are you coming in on this one? Over, under, sideways?
Yeah, I think it's, if the critics are only going to get up to 75, I think this one's got to be lower. And yeah, so I think I'll take 65.
65. All right. Well, you guys are both not super close. 10 points away from the correct answer. And that 10-point difference is going to leave us with a 79, which gives Bob the sweep here. The audience came out for this all right.
Oh, good. That's a hell skeet sweep right there.
That's a hell skeet sweep.
Gotta love it.
Congratulations on your big win.
Gotta love it.
Get your hand off my penis!
All right. So
I'm glad people were more positive on this than we thought. I think that's generally a good thing. Like, we get so much like pure garbage that, like, even though if we might not love this movie, it's better than a lot of the stuff that we see and have to review on the show. So, like, I'm glad people are still somewhat positive.
It's better than The Strangers, that's for damn sure.
God in heaven.
But honestly, I was just updating my list, like top 10 horror movies of the year, and I was like, it's going down. I don't like,
which is a
good. Gave it a 2.5,
which is
damn.
I think that says some good stuff for the year. We're only halfway through. There's still a lot of bangers coming in the back half. It's been a decent year, I think.
Yeah, it's been solid.
So
it's no 2022, but
Well,
what is?
Oh my God!
All right,
2015.
Yeah.
The critics' consensus reads as follows: intoxicating with its maximal style, Maxine is an uneven but vibrant pastiche that drives a stiletto through Hollywood's heart. I feel that.
Hollywood's nutsack.
Yeah, right through the sack.
A dong stomping good time, says
this movie features a young woman stomping the ball sack of a Hollywood icon in a back alleyway.
Love to see it.
You love to see it. So now, as we always do, we're going to go and read a couple negative reviews and see if there's something funny in there. I have a feeling it's going to just lead to more discussion, so we'll take it quick.
Randy, in your AI-generated picture, next to those high heels, are those supposed to be nut sacks?
Those are walnuts. It's a metaphor. See if you can figure it out.
Why are there 3?
It's like, why?
Because that AI sucks. That's why.
My third ball. Oh, God.
Because AI
you
sucks
boys don't have 3?
I had 3.
I got ball to spare.
One of them got stomped off, so now I only got 2.
Oh, damn.
Man. God damn. All right, well, let's read some negative reviews here. The trilogy's final chapter is ultimately a letdown as the film reduces the take charge agency of its protagonist to a simplistic finale with a big bad reveal that unmasks such a genuinely weak performance that they are more laughable than frightening. I guess if he really didn't like the dad's performance is what I'm gathering from that.
I guess, yeah. He was hamming it up too, but
he was hamming
it up a lot.
No more than
I didn't have a problem with
the other characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I don't disagree or agree entirely with that.
Yeah.
All right, let's read one more. Yeah, let's read one more here. None of the information learned in Maxine is revelatory, and the final 20 minutes take a narrative swerve that rob the character of any growth and indeed feel like a waste of time. I don't think that's grammatically correct.
But I generally agree with the sentiment, though.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's yeah. I think that's more negative than I would put it, but yeah. It's in the zone. All right, I'm just gonna call it there.
Hilarious,
because it seems like these are all,
as always,
the funniest knee slappers I've ever heard. We don't have time to laugh this much. I mean, Jesus Christ, it's.
Right.
That's laughing. That is Bob laughing.
There's just a tiny bit of trivia. Let's go ahead and get into it.
All right, let's jump there.
It's totally time for trivia.
Per usual, these new movies are pretty light on the trivia, but I got a little bit. So, according to Mia Goth, she tried listening to 80s music such as Blondie to immerse herself in the setting of the movie when they were filming, but it didn't give her the, quote, energy she needed. So she swapped over to some hip-hop, such as Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, and Eminem, to give her that confidence.
Okay.
Ball stomping music, Eminem.
I feel nothing for that.
You heard it.
I feel nothing anymore.
I don't know. I would have been all over like 80s punk for that.
Yeah,
but
just
you're not
whatever.
You're not a hip hop boy, Randy.
That is accurate. So I'm biased. But
this is my good friend Hip Hop Randy.
That's my evil fucking twin.
If they aren't crusty and unbathed, Randy doesn't want to listen to it.
I love my crust punks, man. Find me a mutt and put a disgusting red handkerchief around his neck, and I'm a happy lad.
Everybody knows you listen to music with your nose first, Randy.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely. It's the best.
Like nothing I'd ever smelled before in my life.
The smellier, the better they sound.
Mhm.
The Hollywood star Maxine puts her cigarette out on is Theda Barra's. The actress Pearl took inspiration from to name the crocodile in Pearl.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, I was wondering what that name was. I was like, I don't know that name, but there's got to be a reason they're zoning in on this.
Yeah, they
Cool
hold.
reference.
They definitely hold on it.
Hold.
In January 2024, it was reported that Mia Goth was being sued by background actor James Hunter, who played a corpse on the set, for intentionally kicking him in the head and then taunting him about it. The suit also includes a wrongful termination claim against A24 and Ty West. I don't know if that's actually gone to court or what's happened with that since, but that was a big news story when it happened. I remember.
I forgot all about that.
I'm not gonna lie. I could see Mia Goth being kind of shitty.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
dude.
could as well.
It does not stretch my imagination.
I could believe that. I'm not necessarily believing it, but I could believe that.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think she taps into something real with these roles.
She's which makes for phenomenal performances, and but
Yeah.
I think there's something percolating there that I can see that happening.
I really hope that it's not the world's biggest deal, whatever it is. But
Yeah, me too.
who knows? Who knows, man?
Drama.
No judgments. We'll wait and see.
Yeah. This is the last bit I have here. So, though Maxine was originally developed as the end of the X trilogy, Ty West later stated in February 2024 that he has plans for a fourth installment, which would depend on the third film's reception. Again, in May of 2024, he confirmed that he was working on a fourth film and that he may develop it as his next project, potentially. So,
And part of me really likes that because I like all these movies,
me too.
but I just don't. I feel like why go like what is he have left to say? Is he gonna I don't know. I don't know if I want to see Mia Goth doing another version of the same person. I think it has if you just keep doing pastiches of specific types of movie and times and places. I'm totally on board for that.
I think, I don't know. You could do anything, but I think if you did some sort of jump forward in time to see what her success and fame had wrought, she's living alone in Hollywood and she is sort of the true analog to Pearl with success, and she still is unhappy versus Pearl never actually attained success and was an unhappy psychotic person. Maybe you could do something interesting with that.
Here you go. She's washed up doing horror cons.
Dude.
In her late age. It's set in the modern
found
times.
footage movie.
Shit.
And it's a bunch of horror nerds who have a podcast who are obsessively
starring
stalking.
With
Have you heard of our podcast?
Their names are Bob, Randy, and Soju.
And
I'm just pulling this out of the air. Soju was the last one. Yeah. Maybe
He lives in Korea,
maybe
but he
they're
loves
all out of
Hollywood so much he
Florida.
comes back for the horror con, and he just can't get enough of Hollywood. Famously, that's what he says.
Just out of there.
He loves it. He fucking can't.
No,
get
I don't
enough.
know, man. I'm not saying they couldn't make something great. The track record speaks for itself, but I feel like
Hang it up. I think. I think he's out of ideas.
Let that rest
I think he's just
and do more pastiches if you want, but let them be their own thing. Let them breathe.
Yeah.
They don't need the baggage. You don't have to bring retread into everything you do.
Well, yeah, I hope this doesn't become this is the moneymaker. We gotta attach this name to it so that it sells or gets a bigger budget. It's dude, come on.
I don't think it is. So I could not find...
I don't think so either.
I have more faith than that.
I could not find an accurate budget for this movie. I tried and tried and tried. The only thing I found was $200 million. That is not accurate whatsoever.
That is insane.
It's not accurate. But I did find on Box Office Mojo how much this made opening weekend, and it's $6.7 million. So if I had to guess, this was in between 5 and 10 million, probably. I don't know. It seems like it has a bigger budget than the other two for sure. So maybe for the locations, they bumped it up to 15 because they definitely, they're filming on some pretty interesting locations that I'm sure are not cheap. I don't know. I'm just guessing here. Plus, like, at least double it for all the promotion and commercials and yada, yada, yada. So I don't know that this is like bringing home mega bacon necessarily. But I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it picks up steam. It's kind of unfortunate for this movie that Longlegs comes out next weekend because the fucking media train behind that's
true.
Insane.
They put a lot of media into that. Budget.
I know. I'm
Holy
trying
shit.
to avoid it, but it's really quite difficult.
I know. Like, I couldn't avoid the trailer more than once now, so kind of can't help but know more about the movie than I'd like to.
Watch this movie.
Like, we're gonna fucking hell.
They did a really great job with the teasers. I wish they would have just stuck with that. I wish they would have Cloverfielded it a little bit.
Cloverfield my ass. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think this is going to make a ton of money, but hopefully it makes its budget back and A24 and Ty West get the coin because it's not a piece of shit at all. Anyway, that's all the trivia I got for this one. Let's go ahead and jump into our Cooter of the week.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the week.
Juice, what is a Cooter and why do we hunt them?
Well, Cooter's character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter has to hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a Cooter, but we want the Cooter with the most points. The 5 points of Cooterdom are sexual deviance, smug arrogance, overall looking attire, overall patheticness, and manipulation. Boys.
Boy, do we have Cooters in this movie.
I can't really clock one here, boys.
Might need some
Larry Fessenden? No? I don't know.
Sweet Larry. I mean,
yeah, I don't know who's King Cooter here. We got a lot to choose from. We want to start with the dad.
Dad, I think, is
he seems like the most obvious because he's the
sexual deviance. Don't watch your daughter do a strip show.
Don't.
Even don't hate watch it either.
Yeah.
There's no good reason to be watching.
He had a rage boner. He did. That's fucked up.
I think he must have.
Manipulation, smug arrogance, out the ass. He's wearing a stupid robe attire. Everything about him is pathetic. Everything.
I think he's wearing eyeliner too. I'm like, I don't know. There's something about that.
2006?
Well, no, it's just that for a conservative, for this to be a conservative front, you know what I mean, or a conservative a evangelical thing. I would think that I think it's weird that they go in for that sort of thing. Even for the sake of their big plot or whatever, just it seems like an actual somebody that entrenched in those values
Randy,
would see it as a sin. And
are
all
you
that shit,
shaming Guy Liner right now? Do you know what you're doing to our podcast?
I'm shaming murderous preacher men. Is that allowed still?
That was really
okay.
That was real popular, Bob, back in 2006. Wore it every day.
Guy Liner
did. It was my thing.
But yeah,
I'm a guy and I'm lining mine.
Remember metrosexual? You remember how that was once a word people used regularly? Metrosexual.
Which means you got your hair.
Oh, you have a haircut.
That means you wore a vest sometimes.
Trim your beard.
Yeah.
What a metrosexual.
Oh my God, you gotta watch out for that one over there.
Fitted pants.
He's
oh my
clean.
God. He's clean.
You would expect a little of that gay panic in him before putting on the guy liner, but whatever. Pathetic.
He wipes his ass too. What a loser!
Oh, he touches his beehole. He does the doorbell.
He's really towing the line there.
He's rocking himself the doorbell on the daily. I bet
he touches his asshole.
More to come.
It's so unfortunate. There's so many crusty asshole men just rolling around with dirty shorts.
They deserve to sit in their own filth.
Clean your butthole.
It's not doing them any favors,
Open up a can of whiff ass.
I mean,
All
it's
right,
got to be
so-
the dad, right? I don't know that anybody else could beat him.
Well, we could say
Kevin
LeBlanc, whatever his name is.
Bacon.
He's definitely got some in there.
Bat, yeah,
Yeah.
The bat, thank you. He's got
smug
some manipulation
arrogance,
for sure.
Manipulation.
Tons of that.
You could give him a tire because that suit's out of control, man.
Yeah. A little bit of patheticness. He doesn't quite go full Jeremiah Sand in the end, but he comes close. He doesn't offer to suck their dicks to get out of that trash compactor. But he's blubbering. And I mean, not that I totally
He's about to get smushed.
Right after, he was very smug arrogant though, because he has that whole thing like, do you know why people hire me? Because I'm the best. And immediately gets caught.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
don't
think
know.
he hits enough. Smug arrogance, manipulation.
Looking at tire.
Well, looking at
I
tire.
think he looks great.
Well, yeah, okay. I mean, I don't think he gets sexual deviance. Maybe a
little bit. Well, she
Might
just
be
like whoops
kinda
his
close.
ass, and then his like smug arrogance that leads
does
to his
beat the shit.
patheticness. Like she just rips his mirror off, just whoops his
She just
in the car.
Fucking keys his ass
Yeah.
In
to
the
death,
face.
basically.
He
Yeah.
should have just like laid down. Like, don't sit up anymore, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, lean over.
taking keys.
Maybe he had
to
a
the face.
seatbelt
Hold
on.
your hand. I don't know. Like,
Just being a responsible driver.
Well, those can't come
Oh.
off. We all know that.
Well, I mean, when you're
Anyone
getting,
want to switch seats?
you're getting punched in the face, I'm not thinking about taking my seatbelt
Dude,
off.
I would if it was keeping me from moving. I'd be thinking about it.
I'd probably be trying to grab her arm, but you know,
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah.
me. There's also a scene in this that drove me nuts because it's a classic thing where she gets a clear plastic bag pulled over her face, and I'm
Oh,
just
Oh,
like,
yeah.
rip a hole.
But yeah, rip a hole.
Yeah,
it's
rip a
a
hole.
plastic
Yeah, it's
bag.
plastic bag.
Why do we always play this game? Rip a hole.
Nobody does it.
They're so weak. They can't even hold our groceries properly.
Actually, Terrifier 2. Was it Terrifier 2? Something I watched recently. They did it
No.
in. It wasn't Terrifier 2. What
Did
was
they
it? I don't
open a
know.
hole or no? They didn't do the hole.
They ripped open a hole.
Oh, okay.
Now I'm blanking on what it was. I meant to write it down.
That was your hot
Anyway.
Friday night, Randy. I'm sure.
Whoa, Randy.
Oh yeah.
Oh. It's the dad. It's got to be the
Yeah,
dad.
I think Dad's King Cooter. We got
Lock
some
him up.
available here, but did we didn't talk about the guy in the alley, did we?
Oh, Buster Keaton?
No, we didn't.
Yeah, we
That's-
didn't talk about him. Sexual
pretty
deviance,
good.
patheticness,
Yeah.
Yes,
Looking
absolutely.
at-
smug
Yeah.
arrogance.
Smug arrogance.
Looking at tire, yeah. Concealing your rape scheme with a fucking it's giving dirty Elmo. Dirty
I don't know if you could say
Times Square Elmo.
full on manipulation, but like he's
Yeah.
not trying to hide anything either. So like strong
Yeah.
four.
Man,
out of
like,
five.
4 out of 5. So yeah, we got some Cooters here, boys.
Yeah, that's a good one. Good call. That motherfucker.
I'm a
share
hunter.
hot
I'm a
tub.
professional hunter
Mm,
of Cooters.
Okay, all right.
weird.
We're hunting for dick.
Yeah, we are.
Wow.
That's right. And Maxine got one for us. All right.
All right.
We got
Cool.
at least 3 there. Lock them up. Throw away.
Lock
the
'em
key.
up.
Boom. All right, boys. Let's go ahead and let our hair down and talk about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Randy, kick us off. What you been watching?
Oh boy. So I have continued watching Are You Afraid of the Dark, which I believe I mentioned last week. I really enjoy it. The amount of which it is nostalgia versus actually being surprisingly good for a kid's horror show, I'm still not sure, but I don't really care at this point. I'm having a good time with it. Still watching The Boys season 4. It is a fun show. Very fun show. Currently a very insufferable fan group, but that's how it goes.
Oh boy.
I've been trying to get more of into the Bear season 3, but I haven't found time to continue. I think I'm like 3 episodes in. That show is so fucking good. I'm really excited to watch more of that. Watched a film called Good Boy that came out last year, which I had been meaning to see. Boy, that movie's kind of a drag.
What?
Cool.
I've got some feelings about that one, but I don't know. I feel like I need more time than is allotted here to really parse it. I guess I liked it. And then managed to strike out down to Florida and then to Jacksonville to catch the last screening at Sunray, which was Everything is Terrible's Doggy Woggies Poochie Woochies performance that ended with three men in childlike dog costumes ripping the tables off of their metal poles and ripping shit off the walls at the theater in its last hurrah, with the blessing, purportedly,
maybe
with the blessing of people. I don't know if that's actually true.
Allegedly.
I feel like, yeah, who knows? But it was fucking crazy, and I had a good time with it. That is definitely the weirdest Everything is Terrible, I guess, movie that I have seen. I love their stuff.
Situation.
Yeah, it was a little much. I was kind of an assault on the senses, and I think that was intentional. But
if you don't know what they do, they literally find footage. A lot of it's like weird old VHS tapes, and they cut it together to form some sort of very loose narrative. This one was mostly dog footage, and they've got one about Satan and all these other things that you can buy on DVD. Some of them on VHS too. It's weird.
It's a very weird
funny.
thing.
Yeah,
it's a very weird thing, and the actual dog show, like the movie, was supposed to be a recreation of Jodorowsky's Holy Mountain, which I haven't seen, but I've given to believe is incredibly weird in its own right. So it's just like maybe a step too weird for my brain, ultimately. But I had a good time. I had a good time with it, and like it was really nice to see Sunray off. You know, that place was a.
I gotta mention. So before they actually started the Doggy Woggies Poochie Woochies thing, they had like a few little short things that they edited together to set the tone or break the ice, or I don't know. And one of them, you and Beck, before the show started, had just mentioned to me, and I was like, oh, that sounds weird. I guess I should try and find it and watch it. And then they showed it, and it was like maybe 5 minutes about this butthole massaging video that's supposed to help you relax, but is very clearly just like softcore porn, maybe hardcore porn, because it's edited, so like there's no penetration on screen, but you see so many buttholes close up, massaging asses and buttholes. I'm a star! And a couple dicks in there, and they had all these different techniques on how to massage butts, like the doorbell, spider fingers, the doorbell, and how to like breathe through your ass, and they like have this camera just like so tightly focused on an asshole, like breathing, like pulsating. This shit, I have not laughed that hard in so long. I thought I was gonna fucking fall out of the chair.
Rob, I thought might lose consciousness for a second.
It was funniest
that much.
shit, dude.
Oh my God.
I want it so I can watch it every day.
I believe that.
God, it was so funny.
Might have to check this out.
And then we rounded things out. We had my last thing was just Wet Hot American Summer to round things out back at Bob's place, just to bring the spirits up after a kind of a last. The reason we watched it is because I was like, man, this feels like the last day at camp. Everybody's like signing shit and sad. So then we watched Wet Hot American Summer to feel a little better, and we did.
It helped. It did. Yeah.
That's it for me.
Juice, what you been watching, man?
I finally have been watching a lot of things, but nothing that I can really talk about at this point because it was for BFun that was this past week, and it's still going on now. It'll go up until this Friday's the closing ceremony, but then they'll have like, I think Saturday and Sunday, they'll still be doing some like screenings and stuff. But for the most part, the festival will be finished on Friday. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I got to meet a lot of great people and see a lot of great movies, and still have some to come, some interviews to come, lots of footage to drop and everything like that. So just be on the lookout for some BFun coverage and interviews and footage and guest spots coming up soon, but nothing I can really talk about at this time. So, Bob.
Riptic.
Whoa, Bob, what you been watching, my guy?
Yo. I saw... So, this past week was the 3rd and 4th of July, so of course, July 3rd is Return of the Living Dead Day. I hung out with brother Mikey, and we threw that on. Always a good time. Never get tired of it. Also,
Where did you stream it?
it was on 4K at my house, good sir.
Oh.
Oh,
Don't get it twisted.
Oh,
Big old doinks.
The 4th of July Sunray show, they had 5 screenings of Jaws since it was the last time they'd be able to do it, and every single one was sold out. And I went to the second screening, which was like at 12:15, and it was asses to elbows. There's so many people there. They were buying buckets of Narragansett. Everybody crushed the can with Quinn. So it was awesome. It was a great time. I love that tradition that I think they've done it literally every year since they've opened. And it's always fun. So I got to do that one more time. Went to the Everything is Terrible thing. It was super weird and insane and kind of an appropriate way to send Sunray off. I also, before that, watched Inside Out 2, also at Sunray. I can't remember if I mentioned that or not already.
how many assholes were in that?
0. Luckily, 0 assholes in that.
Oh,
It's not quite as good as the original, which is typically how it goes, right? But it was mostly enjoyable. Very much about the character of anxiety. Like maybe too much. It's like the vast majority is just anxiety takes control, and the rest of the
There's other emotions
are
guys.
trying to like get
not in
things back on
2024.
track.
There's not.
Yeah, I know.
Like
Maybe
horniness and
Well,
Jesus.
man, Inside Out 3 is going to be a fucking blast.
That's when they're going to say Inside Out went woke or whatever. Oh God, they're so horny. Yeah, it was okay. It was a decent sequel to what I think is a really good movie. The first Inside Out. We wrapped up The Bears season 3. It comparatively felt a little weak to me. Still good, still worth watching.
like overall or just the ending?
Overall, the ending. Apparently they shot season 3 and 4 back to back, so like there is not a resolution. It's just like
Oh.
more to come,
really?
basically. And I was like,
Well, I mean,
oh.
there's never really a resolution.
Yeah, I guess
I was wondering where they were going to go with this season anyway, but
it was.
Kind of curious myself.
still disappointing.
Yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't satisfying. The ending wasn't, but more to
okay.
come, and I'm sure it'll be good. It's a solid show. Still, it's definitely still worth checking out. And yeah, that's more or less what I've been watching this week. That's about it.
Cool.
Get your butthole massage, people. It's good for your health. I'm telling you. I learned a lot.
I believe that.
Ring the doorbell.
My
Do it
eyes are
every
open.
day.
The self massage, or get your partner in there.
It's plum off.
It's plumb awesome. Yeah, that's it. We don't have any voicemails this week, but if you guys are listening and would like to call in next week, leave us a voicemail. You can do so at 904-638-3231. Gentlemen, you want to throw out any prompts for next week's show?
Well, I guess no one loves me. I guess that's why they didn't call. So, I mean, I doubt anyone will call next week, too. You know.
We gotta
What are you,
kill
everyone's grandma? What is this? Like,
Oh my God.
I mean, it's clear no one cares about this podcast, so let's just hang it
that's
up.
all right.
boys.
I'll
No
call
reason
myself.
no reason to continue.
I'll just massage my own butthole, I guess.
You can't pick up the phone and call your soju? What's the matter with you?
You soju?
What is the next movie?
I'm talking to my
it's
soju
Long
right
Legs.
now, okay?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, we're talking about
Call
long
in.
legs.
Call in and tell us about your long legs. How long are
Whoa.
they? Give us a
Tell me
dimension.
every detail down to
Tell
the
me.
feet.
Specifically.
and
Specifically, all the details about the feet.
Tell me how many toes you have.
3 1/4.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the stuff right there.
Yeah, long legs. I'm pretty stoked about. I think we're halfway through the year. You know, I can't remember if we threw this question out or not. But call in with like your favorites of the year, or maybe your stinkers of the year. You know, since we're about halfway done.
Strangers #1, of course.
Give us your X trilogy
Top
thoughts
tier.
too. I mean,
yeah. Where do you rank them?
how's-
give us your
how's-
ranking.
Yeah.
And if it's not Pearl X Maxine, then what are you thinking?
Then you are correct in being wrong.
then
Sure.
you're the Bob of the group.
This really makes people want to call in for sure. When you tell them they're idiots
Let us
before
judge
they even
you.
call, like
Look, here's that's
Let
called,
us shit
it's called
on your
bait,
opinion.
Rob. Let us bait, please. This is how discourse happens in this country.
You think
have to
people
say
don't
something
wanna argue,
incendiary, and then
Bob?
people get mad at you, and then they
think people
talk,
are-
then they give you
this
traffic,
is
and that's how this
audible,
works.
audible clickbait. This
We're
I get
capable
it.
of squashing people's opinions. Is that what you think,
Yeah.
Bob?
is that what you think?
I think Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is better than any of these movies, personally.
You're probably right, most likely. So, yeah, call in 904-638-3231. How many hot dogs do you eat on the 4th? How many fingers did you blow
Hot
off?
dog.
How many
Oh,
how
my
many
Lord.
toes did you blow off? Send us pictures for Justin specifically.
Send us pictures of all the toes you blew
I
off.
just want the
Oh, no.
descriptions. I need the words.
God,
Justin's a very
My-
literary man.
my mind shall develop the picture.
Nothing can compare to the powers of my mind.
It's true. My mind's a wild place.
God in
damn.
heaven. God.
I'm gonna look for a guy with a round, muscular butt.
That needs
Yes.
massaging, most likely. Give him the long doorbell. Just
Justin just cute shade.
you just keep going. You just
Bob.
Oh, that's man. You don't put your finger in the doorbell.
oh yeah, you do. If you ring it right, buddy. Yeah, that's it.
This is the bloke who got me on the penis before.
Watch Long Legs. Get ready for next week's show. Comes out this weekend. Try and avoid the trailers as best you can. I just was scrolling Instagram and there's just like blurb reviews already. Like it's too much, man. Try and avoid it if you can. And yeah, we'll be talking about Long Legs next week. Call in, leave a voicemail if you want to find us on social media. Just search Straight Chilling Podcast. We'll pop right up. All the links to all that shit's always in our show notes, too. You can click on those. And until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
We're gonna get done, dudes!